Wait for it to connect. All right, we are live. Hello, welcome. We are joined by Natalie Sarah Brennick, who is a career and mindset coach, and she's here to share about her story of self-advocacy and to share some do's and don'ts with us. So, hello and welcome, Natalie. How are you?
Thank you so much. I'm so good. So happy to be here in your beautiful community. Yeah, I'm just really excited.
Thank you. We met and we talked about this a week or two ago, and I've been very eagerly awaiting this chat. So it's a topic that's near and dear to my heart as well, having the 9 to 5 and balancing it with my side passion. So, yeah, I'd love to start at the beginning and hear kind of how you got into this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I left corporate at the end of March to go all in on my coaching business, which is like just dedicated to career and mindset coaching, and specifically with a twist targeting like that female success driven entrepreneur slash professional that's looking to climb that whatever ladder she creates for herself in whatever four wall she finds herself in, and how to advance in her career with confidence and clarity. So what got me to that point, I spent 16 and a half years in a Canadian empowered bank, Canadian leading bank, and just rotating capital markets structure the whole time. So in what I mean by capital markets, it's the trading floor environment. So that boiler room type environment. Mind you, it's in Canada, so it's a little different than what people might expect in the movies and in the US, but still nonetheless a trading floor environment. And from as long as I can remember, even like to my core as a child, making money was the only goal that I had set for myself. I grew up with immigrant parents, and we grew up with not much. And then they got jobs, and then all of a sudden, like, we started to live a more fruitful life. And they taught me from a very young age, if you get a good job and it pays well, you stick to it and you never leave. Period.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. So I literally, like, it became like it was in one ear, and then as a child it was out, and then eventually it just stuck in my head. So I
Right.
was extremely motivated as a young adult to like land that great job and just do the most I can with that opportunity, to the point where I literally stayed with the same company for all of that 16 and a half years. And I just figured out how to continue climbing up and up and up. So what really was the impetus for me leaving that environment to go all in on my coaching business? For the last, I would say a good third of my career. It's sad to admit that, but for a good third of my career towards the end, I knew something was missing inside,
Mm.
and I wasn't fulfilled. And I kept moving around every 4 years, searching for that next connection point, And even though money was super important for me to achieve, and that next promotion was super important for me to get, it just was lacking. Something else was lacking. And what I felt was filling that void was doing a lot more of the mentorship with the younger women, and showing them the ropes and showing them how to overcome certain adversity challenges that I had to go through in my younger years, climbing up that corporate ladder. So that's fast forward, COVID hit.
Yeah.
like many of us, you start to think about, okay, what's the definition of happiness? And then that's when I had my aha moment after catching up with one of my mentees. I'm like, okay, this is what I want to do. I want to go all in. And it was a 2-year decision. It was a 2-year. I planned for it. I'm a finance girl, so it's like I got all my spreadsheets out. I figured out exactly what I need to do, how I need to do it, and then I did it at the beginning of this year. And yeah, I left at the end of March, and we've been doing this ever since. So yeah, that's my story.
So exciting. And I'm sure there were all kinds of up and down emotions around leaving and doing that, but you had planned it for 2 years. That's amazing.
Yeah, 2 years. It's a big decision. I got to the point in my career where I was very comfortable financially.
Yeah.
So like check, I achieved that. In my status, I was happy with where I was at. I was actually working with the best team I had ever worked with in the company to that point. I was supported. I was in a good situation.
Yeah.
I was, and I think a lot of people, they were shocked about my news. They're like, how can you leave this to go take such a massive risk and start from literally ground zero? And for me, it like when that moment hit that my purpose wasn't being filled and I wasn't passionate about what I was doing, combined with knowing what would fill that hole for me, doing this and helping other women be able to advance in their careers, that just was everything for me. And for me, by not trying, that was a failure. Like that was failing for me by not at least figuring out taking that step. No one's going to take away the 16 and a half years on my resume.
Right.
Like I can always go back if I want to.
Yeah.
So that's what led to that.
So I know we have several viewers and folks in my community who are in similar situations, myself included, right? We've got the 9 to 5 and it checks the boxes. It's our career. We've got the promotions, we've got the money, all the things except for the inside, right? Or we've got this purpose and this tug of our soul pulling us in a certain direction. Are you able to share, or what tips can you give that went into that 2-year plan
Mm-hmm.
that could help them achieve the same?
Yeah, of course. For me, the biggest thing was getting clarity around what I was going to do.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, for a good the last third of my career, I knew a good chunk of myself was missing, but I stayed. I stayed
Right.
for a very long time because I didn't know what that was. I was walking to. So for me, I couldn't leave if I didn't know what I was leaving to go to. So focusing in, getting very comfortable and clear with what that vision is. And then that next step for me was having a lot of phone calls because I like to network and do my research.
Yeah.
And I reached out to other people that I knew that left the same industry to go start coaching. I spoke to a handful of people that I knew on the trading floor, and I heard their experiences. Tell me about what you did. What was your journey like? Got the thought joggers going. And then I started realizing, okay, do I want some education behind that? Like what tools do I want in my toolbox to make me confident that what I'm about to go do, I'm going to have the skills and the knowledge to do that. And I
Yeah.
started researching different courses and I decided to take a certification that spoke to me. And that took the better part of a year. Fell in love with coaching even more. I didn't know what coaching was before. I should have even led with, I didn't know what coaching was before. That was not a common thing in my industry. No one talked about coaching. No one talked
Yeah.
about like getting a therapist. Like this is now common speak that everyone has a coach. Everyone
Yeah.
has a therapist.
Yeah.
But
It's so
back then, it's like if you had admitted that like if you had a therapist, it's like, oh, something's wrong with you. And like coaches were only available for like the C-suite, not for like, the regular person climbing their corporate ladder. So yeah, my eyes were opened with the experience. I learned some amazing tools and strategies. I fell in love with the active coaching. That the next year, because that was the first year, the next year I put it in practice on the side. While I was still working, I was coaching some people through word of mouth on the side. And everything was just moving in the right direction. And everything was like a yes, 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 building momentum. I was getting more and more excited. So by the time I actually made the decision to have that conversation with my boss, letting her know that I was leaving, I had explored every possible avenue. I had overcome every possible fear that I had going in, all the self-doubt. I'm not good enough. I'm all of that, all the mindset work that goes into it that now coincide I help my clients with. I did all of that inner work.
Yeah.
And that's what really helped me make that decision.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, that's a long game and you were in it and doing the things. And I love how you mentioned you almost had a list of all your fears or like the things that were standing between you and your dream. And you just took them all away from yourself one by one. That's awesome.
Thank
What a
you.
great idea.
Thank you. Yeah, it was huge. And and also I hired a coach. I hired a coach to go through with me because I couldn't do it on my own. And this is not something you're going through a decision of this magnitude. It can't just be a conversation with like a loved one or a parent or a friend. It's different. You need a like unbiased sounding board to walk you, like hold your hand, be the devil's advocate, safe place, really open up. And I found that in that environment, I was really able to overcome a lot of the barriers that I created for myself. And it all stems from fear, the unknown, right? You don't know what you don't know.
That scary outside of our comfort zone.
Exactly.
Wow. No, you touched on something important, family and friends, especially if you're looking to make the leap from the salaried or the secure or like the traditional, and they're not an entrepreneur. They want what's best for you. And sometimes you have those voices all around you as well. Do you have tips for navigating that?
Right. I mean, if you can have those conversations, and I definitely did, not a lot of people understood my decision to make this change. If you can have those conversations and be confident and feel even more self-assured with your decision, if you find yourself continuously defending your decision, that right there, this is what you want to do. And for me, that symbolized I got to keep doing this. If I'm fighting so hard to like do this and to make this happen, this is something I truly want. And I think the moment that they started to realize how deeply I wanted this, they were on board. It was never a question of, can I do it? Or, maybe it was their own projections of their own fear, seeing themselves doing something like this. And they're like, I could never do it. Don't do it. It's too scary.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to respect the fact that they're coming from a place of like love and they just want what's best for me. For me, the biggest resonating moment was me reflecting back and realizing if I'm fighting for this so hard, even with loved ones, like that just shows to me how much I want this.
Yeah. And that's pretty powerful for sure. And they want what's best. I really believe that in most cases, if not all, they really want it to work out for you and they want what's best for you. But their vision isn't your vision, right? So that's interesting.
And I mean, they also had 2 years to digest it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like I also had 2 years of like discussions with them. So it's, I think for sure by the end of it, they were already bought in.
Yeah. It's not like you came home Friday and you're like, I'm not going to work. I'm starting a new company Monday.
Exactly. They had time to digest it for sure.
So within the workplace, I think you mentioned having some do's and don'ts you wanted to share with us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, the topic self-advocacy. So that like was like the impetus. Like this was like the nucleus of like what had changed my career. And what I mean by changing my career, that's when I actually truly started to advance my career. You can imagine being a woman on a trading floor. You are a minority. Women tend to, underappreciate, undervalue what they bring to the table, don't ask for as much, and over deliver on expectations. Yes. That is just a common around the spectrum from what I've seen as with women coming up with me. That does tend to change as you get more experience down the road. And I guess I like to say a little bit more jadedness as you continue, because it's like those raw experiences. But at the beginning, you're not thinking that. You're bright-eyed, bushy-tail, the world's your oyster type of mentality. You're so excited for this opportunity. And that was me. So I was just highly driven. And I put all my trust into my manager to do right by me, because to my face, he told me all the right things. And looking back, I was naive to think that that's, doing good work, getting the recognition back, that will obviously equal advancement. He's going to promote me when I deserve it. He's going to pay me because I deserve it. And that just wasn't equating to what was happening around me. So the moment, and I was thinking about this earlier today, I'm like, what was that one thing that happened when I was like, that's it, like no more? I came back from my first mat leave 2 months earlier because the desk needed help because one of the traders left to go to a competitor. And because I was fully licensed in that product, they had asked me to do them a solid and shorten my maternity leave and fill the gap until they hired someone else. 4 years later, I was still in that seat, mind you. So they didn't hire anyone else. And I remember thinking, okay, this is my opportunity to show them how much of a team player I am. I'm going to give it my all. I'm not going to complain. I'm going to work my butt off, and he's going to take care of me. And there was like this undertone spoken agreement between me and him that he would take care of me at year end. In cap markets, especially on the trading floor, your bonus payment is like what you're working your ass off for. Like this is what, like it could be multiples of your salary. So everyone is working towards that year-end bonus payment. And I remember sitting in that room, so excited, and then hearing that I was held flat with no promotion in the horizon. And it literally crushed me.
Wow.
I was literally speechless. Like I didn't have anything. He's like, "Are you okay?" I still remember. And like I was speechless. I didn't have any words. I left the meeting. I pulled my support system of 2 amazing rock women. They're my rocks, and just completely broke down. And then I got so angry, like angrier than I think I've ever been in a workplace environment. And I immediately scheduled another meeting with him, and I told him exactly what was on my mind. And up until then, he had never seen that side of me. And I let him have it. I expressed everything. He just sat there. He took it all in. And he's like, "You're not wrong." I'm like, "So then why is this happening? Why am I sitting here having this conversation if you know that I'm not wrong, like that I'm right?" And, he gave me some kind of excuse. But in that moment, I realized it's because I didn't actually bang the table loud enough. It's because I didn't actually speak and use my voice as strong as I have up until now. I was more muted.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't complain. And all of a sudden, now that I'm raising my voice because of anger and I had to get it out and let him know just truly how impacted I was, he was listening. And he was scared. He was scared I was going to leave.
Yeah.
And everything changed from that. I'm like, okay, I come home. I'm like, okay, what's my plan? What am I going to talk about here? And I literally was I was a woman on a mission to rectify what had happened to me in those previous years. Started having conversations with coworkers about what they're getting paid. I started having conversations with peers in through competitors to see what the market value was for my role. I started gaining research, and I was no longer going to put all of my trust into him. And that's basically what had happened. That's what set it off. But I'd like to tell you it was all done magically. Everything was rectified in a year and everything was great. But unfortunately, strategies like this and environments that I grew up in professionally, it's a multi-year exercise, I should say. It's more of a like, now it's going to be a lifelong habit of mine because there's no going back.
Right. No, I mean, you have patterns and behaviors, both of yourself as well as like the organization, and you've got the company culture layered on top of it. And
Right.
they're used to doing things a certain way, and then you rock the boat or you push back and it's like, oh.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know what the worst part is? The men that I was coming up with, when I had the courage to, bring them in on my experience, they had a completely different experience. I know, shocker.
Right.
They were doing that from day one. And it's, and that's also one of the biggest reasons why I do what I do today, because I don't want women to have to be any less than any man beside her because she didn't use her voice. I want her to know that using her voice and speaking up for what she wants and what she deserves is more than fair. She deserves that. And it's like I get speechless even thinking about it because it brings me back to all the emotions and all the heartache. It was a crazy roller coaster of a ride, my career.
And that was probably before all of the narcissists and gaslighting and all of the things there. And you're right. We're usually taught, women are to be seen and not heard. So we have to over earn before we feel like we can ask when we are enough. Just who we are, just with what we do, the same as a man. Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's, I have to say, by practicing self-advocacy, yes, my career started advancing. I started getting, those pay increases started happening more fluidly. The promotion talks, the higher profile clients, the bigger projects, the cross-selling opportunities, we really want Nat at this meeting. Like there was just, everything started evolving.
Yeah.
It's an and. What was happening on the inside, my confidence was strengthening more. I didn't even think I had low self-confidence until I realized how confident I can really be within my skin. And that I do attribute to learning how to use my voice effectively and having those tough conversations. And it's not coming from a place of screaming and crying and being erratic. It's about being able to communicate your message effectively and not sugarcoating it.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up because I was thinking, I think the image that comes to mind is like either we're really angry or we break down and cry, right? As women, when we're having an emotionally charged conversation. But to have that cool head, speak our truth, share our thoughts and where we're coming from, there's power in that.
So powerful.
And it's not something that's taught, right?
Nope.
I mean, hence you're a coach in it. There is a need for this. I wish that I've learned more about this in high school before I started getting into a corporate position. Because you're right, you do rely on your manager and you do trust who you work with or your team. And sometimes it goes your way and sometimes it doesn't. But I can easily track the times I was most vocal were the majority of the times that went my way. Or at least, okay, now my boss knows that bothers me.
Right.
And why it bothers me. I remember I got recruited out very early on in my career. I think I'd been with my company 4 or 5 years. And the main thing that was a draw for me was the money. Because I had been there 4 years. I'd been given additional duties and responsibilities, but no promotion. And it was like, oh, but you have opportunity to make commission. But that didn't change my base. It didn't change the amount of my commission. Like everything was still status quo. And I remember the shock on my boss's face. And we had had multiple conversations. I was like, okay, I just hit, our quarterly or our president's club for the year. And I was doing it consistently. And yes, the commission checks were a little bumps here and there, but it was very different than an actual base pay increase. And he must have sat down with me hour and a half trying to convince me to stay, and he would match their offer. And I was like, if day late and a dollar short,
Right.
but kept a great relationship. Fast forward 6 months down the line, that client or company was a headache. So I reached out and I said, hey, how's it going? Did you fill my desk? And he's like, let's chat. And he brought me back at that higher salary and more opportunity. So there is power in just being really honest and not burning bridges, right?
100%. And I think that is so crucial with every conversation that I had with management, because my management team changed when my roles changed. It always came from a place of respect and professionalism. The messaging was never about, you did this to me and you're wrong and you have to right your wrong. It came from a place of, I know my value. I know what I bring to the table. I know you appreciate it because you tell me in every performance review how much you do. This is important to me. It's important, and I know it would be important to you if you were in my position. And I am going to do everything I can to set myself up for success. And I'd love for you to support me in my journey. And by doing that, I was bringing them into the conversation. It's not a me against them. This is what's happening to me. If I get your support, because my manager has a manager who has a man, there's a pecking order.
Right.
So maybe, their decision to pay me more to promote me, has to go through someone else. And I appreciated that there were layers.
Sure.
And by bringing them into the conversation, it formed an allyship where they could support me from the sidelines, because I was going to be going above their head with I told them, this is what's happening. I'm going above your head to have this conversation. And then I'm going to also have a conversation with that person's head and so forth. Because the self-advocacy journey for me, it started in that room, but that was like with a past manager. I had to continue. I'm not like, when you're on this journey of like trying to make more, trying to, advance in your career, it's like the ladder. So if you get stalled at any point, and you mix in 2 mat leaves that I was gone from the office for basically 2 years. And then I came back, and then walking around the office with a belly that year, it's like 4 years being pregnant and being on mat leave, 4 years, my growth completely stalled. So my self-advocacy journey started with him in that room, because he, with what happened then. And then I had to continue that with a new manager when I came back from my second mat leave. And if anything, I wasn't scared to do that because I had already started the journey. And that's why I had mentioned it's like it's an internal habit. I will continue do that. I will continue to do that for forever. And not just in professional setting, in my personal life as well.
Absolutely. No, I think these tips and the way that as soon as you find your voice, it's not like you can forget it again. And then it comes with you in all of your interpersonal relationships, significant other, girlfriends, parents, siblings, everywhere.
Everywhere.
And I feel like, just thinking back to the different bosses and managers I've had, that contrast is so important, because it's almost like you have to know hot to know cold. And when you have a crummy manager, you appreciate the good ones so much more.
Can't agree more. And my last manager, she was awesome. She was so supportive, and she's like, I'm angry for you. I'm also angry about my situation. Another woman on the trading floor, and she fully supported me along during my, and came for the ride during my my journey. And it was really, you know, to have that level of support from another woman was different for me, because you know, it's funny. Growing up on the trading floor, you would think because women are minorities, another female, more senior woman is obviously going to take you under her wing and show you the ropes and teach you all of these lessons that are not written anywhere. And that was not my experience at all. I struggled to find good mentors. I tried so hard. And I think that's not, you know, just unique to my industry that I came from. I think that's probably pretty common in a lot of industries. Maybe it's coming from a place of, if I give away all my secrets, then you're gonna walk past me and advance quicker than me. I don't know where that fear is coming from, but that was my reality. So when she was able to, my last boss, she was able to support me in that level. It's like, okay, like I regained like trust in humanity just a little bit more, knowing that like, okay, I walked away from a really good situation. You know, it's not like I was leaving just another toxic environment with another toxic manager. I had reached my milestones that I set for myself. And I think that when my effort was matched with the output, when like what I received back, when my output was matched with what I received in my input, and I got that last promotion, and I got that pay bump that I was searching for. And then that's when it really hit. Okay, but now what? And then I was like, okay, what am I fighting for now? And then I delved deeper and deeper into mentorship to help other women overcome these challenges, because it's a process. It's such a process. And so much of it is the internal work and overcoming that doubt and just not feeling like you belong.
Yeah, it's all the things that people can't see and don't know that's going on. It's an inside job, right?
It's an inside job. And then I mix in practical advice, because I've been around for long enough that I've seen enough. And just being able to do that for my clients, and through my posts, like through all of the content that I share and the feedback that I get back from just followers that are not clients, it moves me so much that I know that this is what I'm meant to do.
I love that.
Yeah.
So we've talked quite a bit on the career side and speaking up. And I know the other half of what you do is really mindset work. And maybe it's more than half. It might be 75 or 80%. Because I mean, it takes this time, right? It's taken years for us to develop these habits, these patterns, these self-limiting beliefs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So any tips on, like, if you're just in it and you're in that place where maybe that you're having that experience with the manager and it's the last straw, where do you go? How do you start this process to get out of that?
I mean, the way that I looked at it in that moment is, I have two choices. I'm going to do nothing and continue complaining about my situation and growing more and more jaded by the hour, or I'm going to use that as fuel to get what's mine and channel it. And for me, I think I had to come from a place of like pretty low point, and that anger had to fuel that for me. And that's when I knew I was all in on creating a strategy. And I knew that I had to work through I am good enough. And I started reframing all of that negative self-talk. that I had going on that quite frankly was subconscious. Like I didn't realize that was going on in the peripheral. I really did just completely trust my manager to do right by me because I was a good employee and I produced good work. I really, as simple as that. I had no reason to believe that I was lesser than. He never made me think that. Like all my performance reviews were stellar. So when I came from a place of like needing to suit up and put on a self-advocacy strategy for myself, it did come from like a darker place through anger. And I think that when that realization hit, that's when I started having to practice my own mindset work and rechannel that negativity into positive and focus on I am good enough. I am everything enough. I just need to start letting the world know. And that little by little, and I journaled a lot, like I did. And I think it's like whatever advice you need to get it out, whether it's like a 3-hour conversation with a bestie, your journal, your whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's like, do it. Like if you are in that situation right now and you're unhappy with where you're at in your title, financially, and you know you're undervalued for the work that you're producing, the first most important step is to commit to doing something about it.
Yeah. Action.
And strategize on what those next moves look like. And my favorite exercise that I like to do with my clients is write down every single shitty thought that you have about yourself. Don't share it with anyone. So then really write out every single shitty, because you're not sharing with anyone. It's just you.
It's for you. It's just for you. Yeah.
And you're going to get pretty heated because it's going to make you feel pretty shitty. And then you're going to take a break. And then you're going to walk away, go for a walk, whatever it is. And then you come back and you're going to divide the page in half. And on the flip side, you're going to reframe every single negative thought into a more self-serving way of thinking about yourself. And I would challenge you to even do it if you don't 100% believe it to be true. And then you rest on that, and then you come back. And you focus on that positive side way of thinking, and it becomes your belief system.
Yeah. So you're taking the disempowering thought and turning it into an empowering thought.
Yeah.
Rewiring the brain.
And if you don't have and sometimes my clients trip up on this because they're like, I can't write down that more positive because I just don't believe it. Right? And it's hard for them to envision believing that. They're more really logical. Analytical. Yeah, too logical. Yeah,
that'd be me.
Like, no, I can't. Right? And then, but what reason do you have to support to believe the negative side of it?
Ooh. Or where did it come from, right? Is it even your thought? Is it something from society, family member, something that's been floating around in the back of your head and then it just became your belief?
Exactly. So if it could just become your belief with no proof, then why can't it just become your belief knowing that it's serving you in a more positive light?
Oh, that's good. I'm sitting here, I'm like, I've done this.
Yes, we all have. This is why it works, because we all have these tendencies. We're human. It's human nature. We ebb and flow. No one wants to stay in the negative way of thinking, in that negative spiral, but we go there. And it comes from a place of, fear and putting ourselves out there and taking, stepping outside of that comfort zone. No one wants to step outside of their, it's called comfortable for a reason.
Right.
Right.
I had a mentor and she's like, it's time to get comfortably uncomfortable, folks.
Exactly.
Just that first step. You don't have to jump into all of the new, but just that first step, and then that next step, and then that next step. And it doesn't seem as scary when you can kind of chunk it and you're in control, right? You can make a big step or a small step. You're the one making the step.
Exactly.
You
And
know?
I can't agree enough with that statement. And that's why I go back to, if you could just commit to doing something about your situation, you don't have to be stuck there.
Right.
You don't have to be in that angry place. You don't have to be in that frustrated, depressed place. You could do something about this.
Yeah. And I've had some coaches, one recently, action creates clarity. You don't know if you like it till you try it, right? And you try it. And I love how you worked that into your strategy, both with the certification and skills and with the practical. Like you worked with people
Yeah.
to see if it was something that you wanted to jump into both feet, right?
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like, oh, this is a vision and I'm up in the clouds. No, you were like, yes, here's my plan. Here's what I want to do, from the fears to the certification to the actual practical hours. Like that was really fun.
Yeah, even to like, okay, like from a finances perspective, that to me, for me, that was a big one for me. I was walking away from a very comfortable salary to no salary. Like I had to make everything from scratch again. And money to me defines success for a very, very, very long time. So to have to redefine success for me and to work through those money fears, that was a good chunk of my mindset work that I did with my coach and myself, going through the process while I was getting the education and the experience of coaching on the side.
Wow.
Yeah, so I definitely had a few spreadsheets going.
So may I ask you a question about that? How do you define success now for yourself?
Oh, that's a good question.
If you
Yes.
want to share.
Yeah, no, of course. I'm an open book. Um, for me, success is how I feel waking up in the morning and how I feel going to sleep. And knowing that each day I'm putting my all into something that I believe in. And I know that if I continue to put everything that I have into something that I'm passionate about, abundance will come. And abundance to me is more than just money.
Yes.
It's that feeling, it's connection. You know, I would have never met you.
No, the
You know,
relationships.
the
Like,
relationships
yeah.
and all of it. And I won't deny the fact that I'm still very much motivated by money. I don't think that will ever be a part of me that won't be true, but it's not the only thing that motivates me anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm okay to not make as much now so that I can fulfill every other bucket in my life that was lacking for so long. I wouldn't have done this if money was the only thing that motivated me, because I had that and
Right.
it still wasn't enough. And I think as we evolve and go through experiences and adversity and all those ups and downs and challenges, I think that that's truly what is evolving within us. Graduating from university was a different version of myself. Like
Mm-hmm.
I've evolved so much from who I was then. So my
Yeah.
belief system and my wants and my definitions, of course, evolved with time.
Oh, I love that.
And now being able to step into my own and my own truth and what I really want to do in life and help others in this specific capacity, that to me, it's like I feel like I'm in alignment. And you know, that heavy, like that term, the imposter syndrome, and
Yeah.
like faking it until you make it, like that was a big part of my persona for a very long time.
Yes.
Like
The
I
imposter syndrome hits, I think, everyone, especially coaches, right? Are we far enough ahead to help somebody behind us?
Yeah, 100%. And like arguably in any seat and wherever you are,
Yeah.
did I eat, breathe, and bathe in the markets? And what if the market was up and down? No. Did I pretend like I was? Yes. Like it was like, you know, I figured out how to be successful in that environment and I did it. But after so long, you're like, okay, but really, it's like you forget, like, no, but really, Am I happy? Like, what's going on here? I need more.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's so true. And then there's a meme I've seen going around LinkedIn. It's like, don't pay me for how long it took me to complete a task, pay me for the years. It took me that long to figure out how to do it in that short of time, and still be efficient and successful.
Exactly.
Right. It's
So
just,
true.
and there's another one that I I make things look easy, but it doesn't mean they are.
So true.
Complicated things. I was like the go-to person. Give it to Kiki, she'll figure it out. How? Why me?
And then you do.
Right.
And then
And
you
then
do.
you get scrappy. We've got Google University and YouTube Academy, and yeah, you piece things together and wing it, right? Like you said, fake it till you make it. It's a fitness convention, and one of the keynote speakers said, "Oh, that's old. We want to fake it till we become it." And I was like, "Ooh, that's good."
It's good. I like that. Fake it till you become it. And it's funny, I wrote a post on this, literally using the fake it till you make it strategy. And it was a big part of my strategy coming up. And I don't knock it. I think it's actually a skill to be able to effectively use that strategy. I
Yeah.
think most people in many professions are faking it until they figure it out. Like, you don't know what you don't know on day one. So you're faking it until you figure it out. And there's always something more to learn, or another, rock to uncover, to figure out this, to lead to this. And we're just constantly on this like journey of
Yeah.
trying to figure it out. All of us.
Yes, we're definitely in this together. And I find I used to be a serial certifier, still am a little bit, mostly in fitness. And then it came over into like Reiki and sound, and I had to pump the brakes and call myself on it. It's like, do I need it?
Right.
Do I want it? Or is it like quashing a fear that I have that I'm not enough without this piece of paper? And that was a hard question to sit with for a bit. So before I sign up for things, I journal. I sit with it for 2 or 3 days, and it has to be a 9 or 10. It can't just be, I'm going to do this for fun, or it's a continuing education. It has to be like, no, this is for me. I'm going to use it this, and this way. And I've already talked to people about it. So old me was like, no, I was just collecting this stack of certs, and it's crazy the things we learn from. But the more you learn, the more I found I learned and went to all these certifications and seminars, the less I really found I knew. It's never going to be enough. And I'm like, I know that, but I don't know. And I thought I knew that,
Right.
but I really know diddly squat about it. Like just scratching the surface.
I know I feel the same way. Like I'm big on certifications, and it's funny when you're done one, you feel like, oh, it's like the person on top of the mountain. You're like, yeah, I feel so accomplished. Like I did this. And then you turn around, and you're like, wait, what did I actually like learn? What did I just pay all this money for? And maybe it's as simple as you walked away with a little like more confidence in yourself to be able to do whatever it is that you're about to do with this newfound certification, right? And that inner belief that you can do it because now you accomplished that. And maybe that's all it needs to be. And I'm sure you took away, obviously there's nuggets and like there's practices that, there's so much value in it, but
and some were flops. Some certifications, I was like, why did I sign up for this? But the people in the room that I met and the connections I formed were so worth it. So you can always take something from anything you do if you're looking for it.
Exactly. And that's exactly it. Yeah. You just hit it on the head. Like you have to be open to seeing all of the opportunities, even in the bad. Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. So we're almost at 50 minutes. Do you have other tips or tricks or anything you want to leave with our audience?
Oh, I mean, I have a whole guide. Like I have the whole self-advocacy guide that I'd love to share with everyone.
Pop the link on this post as soon as the video loads. So if you're catching this on the replay, you'll be able to take a look at that, and we'll put the link in the notes. That'll be easy.
No, that guide will really take you through overcoming the most common challenges that's preventing you, maybe for a lot of us subconsciously, from agreeing to that this is important for you and wanting to actually advance in your career. And then it's littered with actions that you can take from different ways that you could be boosting your confidence and how to set yourself up for success so that you can start to really create what that strategy of self-advocacy looks like for you.
Love that. That's an amazing gift. Thank you.
Yes.
Then
It's my pleasure.
where do you hang out and how can people work with you if they're led to?
Okay. So I hang out on, so the socials that I mostly is LinkedIn
Okay.
and Instagram and Facebook, but mainly LinkedIn, being the professional network that it is. I feel like it's where my people are, I guess.
Yeah. Makes sense.
And yeah. And my website will give you all the information that you need to work with me, the services, a little bit more about my background, who I am. And I am always down for a chat, no matter what the topic is. Just fill out the form and let's hop on chat. Like I'm open to meeting people and sharing my story. I think there's power in connection. So I encourage all of it.
I love that. That's how we met, through
Yes.
a networking event. And then we hopped on and had a coffee chat for 3.
Yes, I know. And that's just the beginning. Yeah.
Yes, it is. This is great. So I will link all of her social contacts, her website, and we'll get that guide link in there so you can grab that and get started on that right away if that's something you feel led to do. So Natalie, thank you so much for sharing your time and your journey with us and being so vulnerable and open. Really appreciate it.
My absolute pleasure. And thank you for holding space for me to do the same.
Of course. All
Thank you.
right. Well, with that, we will leave you all to a lovely evening. If you're catching the replay, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Lots of love. Bye.